Thank you for starting your week with us. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Ji-yoon in Seoul. Let's get started with a look at today's highlights. A tour company in Hong Kong is offering quite a different experience of its city to visitors by giving them a glimpse of the city's darker side: homelessness, underpaid workers, and people living in tiny flats. Companies here in Korea are stepping up their game and trying to give consumers a hands-on experience of their new products instead of just displaying them. These stories and more coming right up. But first, members of a state commission that will decide the fate of the country's partially completed nuclear reactors made a visit to the construction site earlier today. The commission said a group of 7 toured the site in the southeastern city of Ulsan, where the Shinggori 5 and 6 reactors remain in limbo, before meeting with local residents to hear their opinions. Now this, as a telephone survey on some 20,000 people is now underway. Of them, 500 will be selected to be part of a jury that will deliberate on the issue before the commission makes its final recommendation on whether to resume construction or scrap the reactors. That decision is expected on October 20th. Korea's benchmark Kospi index appears to be undergoing a market correction after hitting a record high of 2451 back in July. Foreign ownership of shares in Korea's top 10 conglomerates has dropped by 4.6% over the past month, worth nearly $15 billion. According to market tracker FN Guide, the biggest losses were taken by affiliates of GS Group, which saw a near 10% dive, followed by Samsung Group as 7%. LG Group's business units bucked the trend as foreign ownership in their shares rose nearly 4.7%. Hyundai Robotics posted the biggest gain among individual listings, with a stellar gain of 61.7% over the cited period. And now, for a closer look at today's stock market action, we have our markets contributor Lee Ji-hye joining us on the line. Hello, Ji-hye.
Hi, Ji-yoon.
So tell us how stocks performed on the first trading day of the week.
Sure, stocks closed mostly on a lower note overall. The benchmark Kospi fell 0.25% to close at 2,370.3, and the tech-heavy Kosdaq rose 0.41%, closing at 652.92. Market bellwether Samsung Electronics fell 1.96%, following Friday's court decision where Samsung heir Lee Jae-yong was sentenced to 5 years in jail for bribery as well as a string of corruption charges. SK Hynix declined 0.73%. Steelmaker POSCO was flat, as well as Hyundai Motors. Naver gained 0.38% and KEPCO was up 0.23%. Analysts also say that North Korea's missile launches on Saturday may also have been a key factor in the sluggish trade today.
Now, can you give us a rundown on what key market events are lined up for this week?
Sure. Us off on Monday, the Census Bureau in the U.S. will publish an advance report on its international trade in goods. The deficit is expected to have narrowed to a consensus $64.1 billion in July, after averaging $67 billion per month in the second quarter. Moving on to Tuesday, the Bank of Japan will release its core consumer price index, with the nation's economy having expanded at the fastest pace in more than 2 years in the second quarter, mostly credited to a pickup in consumer and corporate spendings. The second quarter GDP for the U.S. will be released on Wednesday. Many are forecasting an improvement in Q2 from the previous quarter, with market estimates now sitting at 3% compared to the previous 2.9%. Also on Wednesday, Federal Reserve Governor Jerome Powell will deliver a speech in Illinois during large bank directors' conferences hosted by the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. As for Thursday, the Fed's balance sheet will be published for the last week of August.
And it's expected to be a busy week on the domestic front as well. Could you fill us in?
Yes, Ji-yoon, this week is quite the week for the banks worldwide, and South Korea is not an exception either. On Thursday, data will be released on Korea's industrial product as well as the service sector index for July. On the same day, the Bank of Korea will convene its monthly rate-setting meeting. Many analysts are expecting the BOK to stand pat while it eyes additional data being released from the U.S. and other markets around the world. The central bank is adopting a wait-and-see approach, especially after neither Janet Yellen or Mario Draghi addressed QE tapering or balance sheet normalization during last week's Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. And finally, Korea's second quarter GDP figures will be released on Friday, where the BOK has been quoted as saying a slowdown in prices and economic growth could be seen, with the latter currently estimated at 2%. This has been Lee Ji-hye for Business Daily.
The euro currency is extending its rally, reaching a 2.5-year intraday high against the greenback on Monday. The common currency climbed to equal 1.1966 US dollars, its highest since January of 2015, though it has since pared some of those gains. This after the euro spiked by 1% on Friday as ECB President Mario Draghi stayed mum on the currency's strength during the Jackson Hole conference. Meanwhile, the US dollar is being pressured by a major negative weather event unfolding in southern Texas. Houston, America's fourth largest city, is dealing with catastrophic flooding brought on by Hurricane Harvey. U.S. gasoline futures hit a 2-year high on Monday as the now downgraded tropical storm Harvey looks to have knocked out a quarter of oil production in the Gulf Coast. Earnings growth for Chinese manufacturers slowed in July after growing for 3 consecutive months. This is in line with analysts' predictions that China's economic growth will slow amid a rise in lending costs and a cooling real estate market. Total industrial profits rose 16.5% to over $92 billion US dollars, the slowest since April when it rose 14%. According to a top official from Beijing's National Bureau of Statistics, the slowdown was a result of several production stoppages due to extremely high temperatures. The 21.2% profit gain seen in the first 7 months of the year fell slightly short of the 22% year-on-year growth logged in the first half. Now, with Brexit talks still ongoing, Nissan Motors is looking to boost its production in the UK by 20% to offset rising costs when the exit is finalized. The Japanese automaker may invest between 90 and 180 million US dollars into its production line in northern England. With the expansion, Nissan is hoping to have its Qashqai SUVs rolling off the lines as soon as 2019. Combined with electric vehicle production for the anticipated rise in demand, Nissan is aiming to produce some 600,000 vehicles per year. Other Japanese automakers also appear bullish in the British market, with Toyota announcing a $310 million upgrade to its own UK plant back in March. The number of Koreans traveling abroad is expected to jump during the nation's Thanksgiving holiday, Chuseok, which falls in early October. According to Hana Tour, Korea's biggest travel agency, roughly 77,000 people have made reservations to go abroad, up over 97% compared to the 39,000 from last year's Thanksgiving break. This year's Chuseok holiday will stretch out for 10 days, including 2 weekends and a temporary holiday, doubling the number of days from last year. Southeast Asia was the most popular destination, taking up about 42% of the total bookings, followed by Japan with almost 24%. And thanks to the longer holiday, more people are also opting for long-distance travel to the Americas and Europe compared to last year. Meanwhile, over in Hong Kong, in contrast to the glitzy and wealthy image of China's autonomous region, one tour group is showing visitors the darker side of the city, where residents are anything but thriving. Our Eunice Kim tells us more.
Recently, tens of thousands of Hong Kongers were back on their feet, deeply disappointed in a high court decision to jail 20-year-old Joshua Wong and his peers. Punishment for, quote, unlawful assembly in the massive pro-democracy umbrella revolution protests of 3 years ago that also paralyzed the financial hub's major roads for 79 days.
They want to stop our revolution. They want to scare the young people.
For outsiders who want to understand the anger driving the locals, Michael Singh left his job in finance to run Hong Kong Free Tours, a program that walks curious visitors through the darker side of the city that reached a fresh high in income inequality last year.
Quite old building already, around 500 feet, so 50 square meters.
Across the water from the glitzy downtown, tour guide Ala Lau explains 1.3 million residents are scrounging below the poverty line. Pointing to those living in makeshift housing, she says 40% of them are working paid jobs, but still unable to afford the $205 a month to live in the tiny, infamous coffin homes.
So it's very authentic, and having a chance to go around at street level to see what it's like in the more densely populated part of the cities, I thought was very interesting.
Alla and Michael both participated in the 2014 rally that called for universal suffrage. He says it's important to continue the conversation on Hong Kong's relationship with China, as well as the realities beyond stereotypes and the official line, while freedom of speech still stands.
So yes, there's a possibility that someone or something might happen that would cause our business to change the way we operate or the ideas that we are sharing. But I also think that, if we are doing what is, if we are doing what we think is the best to do, we'll just continue to do it until we're not able to do it.
Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
While Korean firms have been battered by the rocky diplomatic relations between Korea and China, it seems China's own airlines have taken a hit as well. Air China, China Eastern Airlines, and China Southern Airlines are all expected to report higher earnings this week, but cuts on profitable routes to Korea are likely to limit their gains. Data from industry tracker Flight Global showed the three airlines had cut seating capacity on flights to Korea by 41% in August compared to last year. The reduction in capacity to one of their most profitable overseas destinations will likely be reflected in the earnings of China's three biggest airlines. Home appliance manufacturers are looking to provide a whole new hands-on experience for customers to help them make better purchase decisions. They're creating entirely new spaces equipped with virtual reality and other cool features to show off the potential of their products. Our Elliot Kim has more.
Just as consumer habits evolve, appliance manufacturers' marketing strategies evolve as well. This display room looks more like a set of a TV show rather than a place for a company to showcase its wares. Breaking away from the lines of products that customers are used to seeing when shopping for appliances, LG Electronics wants to give consumers a hands-on experience of new products, allowing them to better conceptualize them in their lives. Activities include everything from lessons by famous chefs to seeing how easy the appliances are to clean. These spaces have also begun to expand beyond just appliances. Kia Motors opened a new customer experience space in June and has had 25,000 visitors in its first month and a half.
The goal is to make Kia Motors feel fresh and progressive, rather than simply using a sales-oriented pitch.
Last month, Electroland redecorated its stores, expanding on luxury brands and providing more space for product experiences. Sales tripled that month.
I think it's good to experience a lot of things, find the ones that suit me, and buy the products I need.
As people continue to look towards experiences involving new, luxurious items, home appliances and car dealerships are changing from places to shop to experiential getaways. Elliot Kim, Business Daily.
Artificial sweeteners are becoming more popular here in Korea, with health-conscious eaters doing their best to avoid sugar whenever they can. Now, the use of sweeteners is becoming more prevalent not only in homes, but also in cafes and workplaces as well. Our Yoon-shin has the story.
Housewife Oh Na-kyung has been making pickled onions for her family once a month for a while now. But starting last year, she tweaked her recipe and started using artificial sweetener instead of sugar.
It requires a lot of sugar to make pickled vegetables. So when I'm cooking at home, for my family's health, I use sweeteners instead of plain sugar.
With growing concern about the negative health effects of sugar, such as diabetes and obesity, the market is moving in a new direction. Figures show that sugar sales in Korea last year were a little over $113 million, down 11% from the year before. And sales of artificial sweeteners that are kinder to your waistline are on the rise, from some $6.8 million in 2014 to over $10 million last year. Take a look at this company. It showcased a new drink made of sparkling water with the scent of Coca-Cola for customers who don't care for the high sugar level in sodas.
This is for consumers who don't enjoy the sickly sweet taste in Coke. This carbonated drink has no sugar in it, but still tastes quite a lot like Coke.
Korea Yakult, a local business producing fermented drinks, has also been replacing sugar with artificial sweeteners since 2014, reducing over 8,000 tons worth of sugar usage in drinks over the past 3 years. Market watchers expect the health-conscious trend to further spread across Korea's food industry. Yoon-shin, Business Daily.
Korean researchers have developed a new type of organic coating that can extend the shelf life of fruits and vegetables. The sprayable coating could also have other everyday applications. Our Park Se-young reports.
Plant-derived polyphenol antioxidants are often used as food additives due to their antimicrobial and potential anti-cancer properties. Now, Korean researchers have developed a sprayable nano-coating technique using these organic polyphenols to extend the shelf life of fruits.
Polyphenol has both antioxidant and preservation properties, so the coating can preserve fresh fruits.
Compared to the soaking method, this new spraying technique takes less than 5 seconds and can be selectively applied to targeted areas. The technique also prevents deformation of products and cross-contamination of the coating solution. Coated tangerines preserve their shape and quality much better than uncoated fruits after 28 days, while coated strawberries stayed fresher than uncoated fruits for 58 hours. The technology can be applied to everyday goods, from keeping eyeglass lenses from fogging to keeping the soles of shoes free from bacteria. The researchers have patented the technology with aims to commercialize the method for nano-coating fresh produce. Park Se-young, Business Daily.
Special hands-on agricultural experience offers an escape from day-to-day stress, allowing people to recharge their senses in rural settings. Green tourism linking cities to farms are all the rage, but in particular, we're going to take a look at the hot agricultural tourism trend of Fuso experience.
Gangjin is at the top of any list for a visit to Jeollanam-do region. Gangjin-gun's unique geography places it next to a part of the ocean that protrudes deep into the mainland. People from all over the country have been visiting recently, and the reason is to enjoy a Fuso experience. Fuso is an acronym for Feeling Up and Stress Off. It's an agricultural tourism offering developed by Gangjin-gun, and over 7,000 people have participated so far in 2017 alone. The Fuso experience begins here at the home of poet Kim Young-nang. Gangjin is a region filled with the traces of famed scholars and writers.
We've come for the Gangjin FUSO experience with humanities students from the Yosu Education Center for Gifted Students. Perception of humanities is not fostered through reading alone. We came to experience rural agriculture and visit the Literature Center to learn the source of humanities-based sensibilities like Yeongnang.
Yeongnang Kim Yoon-sik, who was born here, was a top Korean lyrical poet and a leading figure in movements against colonial Japan. Pristine natural settings are another important part of the Fuso experience. Fuso participants read Yeongnang's poems in his hometown and trace his footsteps to immerse themselves in his poetic world.
It was hot, but taking in the cool breeze while walking blew away my stress.
Late in the afternoon, the second part of Fuso Experience begins, and it's the beginning of the highlights. It involves staying for a day or two at a farm, experiencing the ambience and sensibilities of rural areas. The hosts warmly greet guests, making them feel as if they are visiting their own grandparents.
Okay, make yourself at your home, all right?
Yes.
Do you get it?
Yes, I got it.
All right, good. Yeah. Very good.
Farmers tell stories of nature and the way it affects their lives, expanding empathy, especially among children.
이게 자루 나무 지금은 이제 플라스틱으로 다 됐는데 나는 이제 옛날에는 우리가 어떻게 살았는가 그런 거를 너희들한테 알려주고 싶어.
Dinner is made with fresh ingredients raised by the farmers themselves.
아이들이 좋아하는 거 이제 하고 이제 뭐 계란 이런 거 다 우리 집에서 자급자족 하는 거 시골에서 나는 것들.
This sort of emotional communication between farmers and visitors creates an experience different from that of one-off tourism.
The house itself is different and felt friendly and familiar like grandmother's home, whereas the Fuso experience is about meeting others in a new place and healing through travel.
As a result, the Fuso experience has been lauded for its presentation of a new educational model to develop character among teenagers. In essence, the Fuso experience is an educational one, teaching how people can coexist with nature.
It's unfamiliar at first, so conversation is difficult, but through 2 or 3 days they grow close enough to tear up when waving goodbye.
It's just a short night stay at a farm, but it's filled with new memories and laughter. The next day, students dispersed among various farms experience various aspects of farming, from arts and crafts to the ecology of butterflies.
We learned the names of plants we saw along the street. We fed chickens and saw rabbits and insects. We drew on walls. It was fun.
The 2-day Fuso experience has come to an end, and it's time to part. The Fuso Agricultural Tourism Program promotes emotional growth and fosters affection. In addition to boosting profits for farms, it is becoming a fine role model for Korean green tourism and more active agricultural tourism.
And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more at the same time, same place for your Business Daily. Until then, goodbye.